What's up, guys? We are back with another Masters of the Universe review, jumping into the latest wave of Origins. It's been a little bit, right, since we've gotten a full wave. I haven't seen a full wave of Origins on store shelves in months and months and months. So it was exciting to get new stuff in the mail. I got this set from Entertainment Earth. They got full cases in, so we're gonna do a full wave all at once. And this wave is kind of a special one because it kicks off the 200X figures, and we don't exactly know how far they're going to go with this, but we're at the very least getting 200X He-Man and 200X Skeletor in the same wave, so you can kind of knock them off the list right at the same time. And it's also pretty cool because, well, literally this month is the 20th anniversary of the 200X show. We also are going to get the next figure in the Sunman subline, so we get Pighead. Another figure that you may or may not be aware ever even existed until he showed up in Origins. And then my most anticipated figure for this entire wave gives us another Horde member with one of the big ones. We are knocking off Mantena from our list, and this one in particular does seem to be a little bit special in terms of how he was created and what they were able to do different for Origins versus the vintage line. So now as far as packaging goes, we run through it as usual. These are our standard Origins kind of cards, but they do have a little bit of a difference. So, you've got your figures there in the window, you've got the Masters logo, the lava burst explosion in the background. We do have our 40th anniversary emblem up top, and then the back of the packages give you fantastic artwork showcasing current stuff, maybe hints of stuff coming down the road, and then sort of, that sort of instruction artwork as well as a cross-sell for this particular wave. So as usual, humongous fan of these packages. I mean, it's just nostalgia oozing out of each one, but we got to do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our latest wave of MOTU Origins. We've got kind of something for everyone here. We've got 2000X representation or MYP representation with Skeletor and He-Man. We've got our Mantena for Horde representation and Pighead for Sunman representation. So kind of a lot. We're reaching all over for this one. So we're going to run through articulation real quick. They're all exactly the same. Even Mantena is exactly the same as the rest. He just happens to have extra legs. He doesn't really gain or lose any articulation because of that. So I'm going to use him as our guinea pig, and we're going to start with him because, well, I want to start strong with this one really because he's easily the best figure in this wave, especially because, of course, this is knocking off another Horde member off our list. So, you've got a head that can look up and down, they can swivel side to side, arms out at the shoulders, they can rotate. You've got your single jointed rotating elbows, and then you've got wrist hinge and rotation there. We've got waist twist, so all very normal. And then for the legs, they kick out, they kick forward, they still kick backwards, even the back legs, they're all going to kick backwards and forwards. They're regular legs. He just happens to have a wider, deeper crotch, I suppose is a better way of saying it. You can shimmy up there, and then you've still got your knee articulation with a little bit of rotation there. So you've got hinge and rotation. You still got your boot swivel, and then you've got rocker and hinges down at those ankles. And again, they're all like that. All of his legs are that way, and he's exactly like every other figure. He is just afforded another set of legs. And the legs on this guy are easily the thing to talk about, because the vintage figure didn't have two sets of legs. He had two legs that were two legs each. They were sort of doubled up on each other. So he was more in line with a normal figure. He's got a deeper profile this time around. And from what I understand, this is one of the small number of figures that the Four Horsemen have worked on in some way with this line. They have either consulted or been involved with the creation of Mantena. I believe Leech is also on that list as well. And in some ways it shows. I mean, this looks like a better figure in many ways. This kind of looks like, almost like you'd want to say this is a deluxe, because it is not a normal figure. He's bigger, he's certainly heavier, and in some ways he does have maybe a few more paint apps too. Not to mention the fact that this guy still has an action feature. So Mantena has a lot going for him. When I said I wanted to start strong, there's a reason. This is a really solid figure in this wave, but then of course in the line in general. And if you're a big Horde guy like I am, you're probably going to want this one anyway. Now, as far as the sculpt goes, I mean, he is very vintagey in terms of, just the overall stature, except for the legs. He's got those bumps all over the legs. You've got the fins that are all over the sides of the arms and the legs. You got your painted Horde emblems down there. And then the torso is painted okay. It looks a little cakey in some ways. You've got this sort of, his head sort of leans like, you know, on the pinker side of red. So you've got that on the torso, and of course, you know, you've got the Horde emblem emblazoned on there and a little bit of orange up there as well, just to kind of break him up. The head sculpt outside of the legs, you know, the head sculpt is probably the draw for this figure, because it is pretty wild. There is a ton of sculpt up there, tons of paint detail, especially on those eyes. You know, like I said, he does seem to be a little bit more than your average figure. Like, not a deluxe, but maybe like in between a regular figure and a deluxe figure, that one that doesn't have its own price point, basically. So let's just shove him in a regular line, which I'm perfectly happy with. He fits in a regular package, so I think that's a good enough reason. But the head sculpt is just tremendous, and like I said, he has the action feature, so his eyes can still bug out, which I think is just awesome. Very vintage inspired. So you can have him do his thing, which is, you know, it's a very telltale thing from the show, but also in the toy line. And then he also, of course, I mean, you can't be a Horde member without a Horde crossbow, so he's got a gray one, and it does have, you know, the ability to sort of fire, pop it back in, and it'll sort of jut out a little bit, just to sort of mimic the idea that it is a firing crossbow. So a really fantastic figure. Again, I wanted to start strong, and I think this is probably one of the better figures in Origins in at least the past few waves. We go back to Sunman with Pighead, so we have a bad guy to go with our existing Sunman, so you finally start to get some villains, and this guy is wild. I don't have any attachment or nostalgia for Sunman. I believe I said that in the review for that wave, but I like MOTU adjacent stuff. And of course now he is basically part of MOTU. This guy, though, for me, it's all about the colors. His colors are ridiculous. This is definitely, you know, like something out of my childhood time frame. Super bright, vibrant colors, just wacky color scheme. I mean, look at him. He's green and blue, and then he's got pink accents all over him. He's got this crazy flail, and just his composition is kind of ridiculous. I love the spiked bandolier that he's got across his chest. It looks really good. He does have a little bit of paint on the crotch for the belt, but he's relatively devoid of paint in many instances. Not a lot of it because of how he's sort of sectioned off. So arms, legs, and the torso are all independent from each other. And then you got your boots down here, which have that sort of, you know, it's sort of a teal blue color, but he looks really good. And again, it's a lot of reuse for this guy, outside of the fact we do get this wacky new head sculpt. And I don't know what's going on with this guy's teeth, but I guess he needs to see Molar or something, because he's got just the weirdest tusks. So he's got one sticking out one side, two sticking out of the other. It looks like bananas sticking out of his mouth, but it's a pretty wild head sculpt. He's got this nasty evil furrow on his brow, and then those pink horns up there can really kind of break him up, because he is super, super bright, but the pink is surprisingly not bright in comparison to the rest. But I think that does help to sort of even him out a little bit. Now you've got, of course, a couple accessories with this guy. You've got the shield, which is pink and the teal color, and then you've got your kind of flail weapon here, which I really like this. It's a little bit different. And of course it looks like an evil guy's kind of weapon, so you can have him, you know, bashing Sunman, or doing something with it, bashing Skeletor, trying to take over, whatever he's going to do. But this is a really cool figure, and I'm very much here for the Sunman stuff. It's wacky, it's definitely weird, especially even for MOTU. Some of this stuff is really weird. I mean, this guy is very, very odd in comparison to a lot of the figures we've gotten recently, even compared to Mantena. He's very much his own thing. This guy is going weird in a different direction, but I think he's really cool, and he's definitely going to stand out on the shelf, because, I mean, he's like highlighter yellow. Now, the last half of this wave are the 2000X Mike Young Productions He-Man and Skeletor, and I kind of wanted to have these up at the same time because I like these figures, but I would say these are among the weaker figures of late, maybe in the line in general. To me, these seem like Origins figures sort of playing dress-up as these characters, if that makes any sense, because they're just sort of missing something to make them this definitive version. He-Man in particular, I think it's the face. It's too much of a vintage He-Man just looking like the 2000X He-Man. Skeletor, it's the lack of a cape. 2000X Skeletor needs a cape. You know, maybe I'll pilfer one from one of the handful of Keldors that I have, but that's what makes this guy not as 2000X to me as he could be. There's other stuff too, like the bones on the harness. Those should be bone colored. That's one thing that sticks out as something that I would like to see. And the face in general just doesn't really seem like it. Again, it kind of looks like a different Skeletor sort of playing dress up with this cowl over his head. And of course the cowl makes me want to see a cape behind him. There is some good with the not so good, though, because in general, these are pretty cool He-Man and Skeletors. You know, if you're a huge stickler for 2000X, you might be disappointed in these because they're okay. For me, they're just okay. But some of the design elements are there. So, like, you know, He-Man's insignia on the chest is definitely there. And it's got some nice metallic paint to really stand out. And then, of course, his belt is a little bit different. Skeletor's belt is a little bit different. Skeletor's armor is a little bit different, things like that. The coolest aspects of these figures for me, though, and it's unfortunate that the coolest aspects of the figures is not the figures for me. You know, take from that what you will. It's the weapons. And specifically, it's Skeletor's weapon, you know, the 2000X Skeletor sword, which I absolutely love this thing. I wish, and we're going to get to this with He-Man too, I wish there was some paint on it, because outside of the fact that it's this super metallic-y purple, which the finish does look great, I love metallic stuff when it comes to weapons, it all kind of blends together, but the details are there. And of course he does come with, well, the details are here. And of course he does come with a Havoc staff, because what would Skeletor be without one? So I do think Skeletor looks pretty cool. Like, I like this face. I like the paint applications on it. The detail that it is there is nicely done. But he just seems like another kind of Skeletor playing dress up when it comes to what that version of Skeletor actually looks like. And then when it comes to He-Man, it's kind of the same. It's like a vintage He-Man playing dress up as 2000X. And maybe that's what they're going for. This is, you know, a vintage inspired line. So maybe that's what I should be thinking in the confines of. But when I think about this character, it's hard to remove his look from this toy. And I don't think it's exactly there. It still makes for a pretty cool He-Man. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not upset that I bought him. But I kind of wish he was a little more 2000X inspired when it comes to this face, because it's just not there. The hair is kind of there. The hair is sort of there, but it's not exactly. And then, of course, he does have some pretty rad weapons, but it's the same issue as Skeletor. There's no paint on them. So he's got the 2000X sword, which I love this sword. I think it's crazy and ridiculous. You know, I was a huge fan of this show. Literally, the summer of 2002 was nothing but me, like, gearing up for He-Man returning. So I have a big place in my heart for this show and this sword, because it was literally like something that consumed me for a few months leading up to when the show started. And I'm really happy to see this here, but again, it doesn't have any paint on it. It's just metallic silver. And then we get this monster 2000X style axe, which again looks cool. There goes He-Man, but it doesn't have any paint on it. So it's kind of a bummer. It's cool on one side, but it's, you know, it could be better. It could be more. And I understand, you know, within the confines of this line, maybe the price isn't there, but you want what you want, right? And I would love to have seen these weapons, especially this one, with at least a little bit to paint, just to bring out some of that detail, because while they're really cool, they have great sculpts, there isn't any paint to really bring that out. So the sculpt is there. This is definitely a situation where the sculpt is there, the paint is not. And then, you know, for the last time, they kind of look like different versions of Skeletor and He-Man trying to play dress up as their 2000X counterparts. So yeah, overall, this wave is kind of a half and half for me. I think two of them are really good, very strong figures, and two of them are, you know, on the weaker side of Origins in general. Mantena is, without a doubt, one of the better figures in the line in general, especially because they were able to make those legs work. They're not crammed in on top of himself. They are very functional. They do exactly what legs are supposed to do. He just happens to have two extras. He has the action feature. He looks fantastic. Pighead is a wacky, goofy looking figure that has some cool accessories and a wild design, and I'm just really excited to see more of this Sunman stuff. The 2000X figures are okay. I like the weapons, but of course, like I said, they need more paint. They need some paint, really. And then there's just a few details that make them 2000X inspired. Some of it is there, but ultimately all of it isn't there. And again, they do kind of seem like they're just the vintage versions of MOTU characters playing as their 2000X counterparts. So that's going to do it for this look at the Masters of the Universe Origins Mantena, Pighead, 2000X Skeletor, and 2000X He-Man. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.